Hello, my name is Jenna Gibbs. I am a yoga instructor, personal trainer, and a group fitness coach at the University of Iowa Rec Center. And today I'm just going to bring you a yin yoga class. So we're going to do prolonged stretches for desk-bound folks. So I am going into my third trimester. I'm 29 weeks pregnant. This is also a safe flow for pregnancy to relieve your hips and lower back whenever you're on a lot of meetings. Kind of hips, lower back, get really, really tight. So we're going to stretch it out for about 30 minutes. Each of the holds will be pretty long, 2 minutes or longer. So we are going to start by sitting on our mat. Okay. So I have to mention this is filmed in my home during the coronavirus outbreak. So we may see family members and things behind me, and that's just the way it is right now. We're going to start in butterfly, soles of the feet together, knees wide, and you really want to be relaxed here. So if you have to scoot your pelvis back a little bit as you do this, you can sit back, knees wide, sitting up nice and tall. Another great place to take this posture is back at the wall, lower back at the wall, sitting up nice and tall, and working on dropping your knees down towards the floor. We're going to be here for 2 minutes today. So I'm just going to start our timer. And it's totally up to you. If you're at the wall, you might stay upright. But if you're on the ground, you can also very, very gently place your elbows on the inside of your shins and just kind of start to take yourself forward. And definitely don't force it. Since we're doing long passive stretching today, we're going to take it nice and easy. Good. So you can even kind of close your eyes. And just make sure you're taking those long breaths in and out of your nose. Good. And so we're going to do a lot of hip opening today because when we are on Zoom meetings and doing a lot of screen time, we really don't have much opportunity to open our hips in this lateral plane. If you think about it, we're always sitting in a chair, even standing on meetings. Our hips are always turned forward. So we're going to do a lot of outward hip opening. We've got about 40 more seconds here. Good. If you're leaning forward, you just really want to make sure that you feel grounded and that you're tilting from the hips and really not rounding the upper back too much. Good. Let's take one long breath in. Let it go out the mouth. Awesome. Good. So coming out of that 2 minutes hold, go ahead and use your hands to assist you. Another great thing you can do after holding a while, take your hands behind you, windshield your knees side to side, which also just feels great. Okay, kind of evening that out. We're going to come into a 90-90 hip stretch. So you're going to take your left shin towards the front of your mat. Your right shin will be behind you. And you really want to make sure that you're sitting your pelvis straight down. So you want to take a look at that back leg and the front leg and just look at the knee. What you're trying to go for is a 90-degree angle. Take your hands to your hips and really try to root both hips down. You might notice, wow, you feel really tight on the inward rotation or you feel really tight on the outward rotation, especially if you've been sitting all day, and that's completely normal. So in your 90-90 stretch, we can either stay upright with the torso and work on pressing that front shin down into the ground, okay? And inward spiraling this back thigh and sitting up nice and tall, okay? We'll be here for 2 minutes as well. If this all feels great to you and you're completely comfortable in the 90-90 hip shift position, I'm jealous of you. You can come into a little bit of a forward fold. So don't stop pressing that front shin down into the earth. And you just really want to lengthen the sides of your body, lengthen your torso, and forward fold ever so slightly. So we'll be here for about another minute and 10 seconds. Some of you may be familiar with traditional pigeon, and this is a lot like pigeon, but of course our back leg is also in that 90-90 spiral. So we're working on spiraling that hip down, this hip open. So we're kind of getting more bang for our buck when we do this hold. Slow down your breath as you keep the sides of the body nice and long. Last 20 seconds. Don't forget, if you can, think about engaging and pressing that front shin down. You'll have to really be working that outer hip and stretching it at the same time. Good. Last 10 seconds, really press it down. Take your torso down if you can. Good, and then just inhaling, coming on up. Should be easy to take the 90-90 hips to the other side, okay? Big switch, so front shin facing the front of your mat, back shin kind of spiraled off to the back. Just look at both knees, make sure they're both 90-90. I like to take my hands through my hips and try to get them down to the ground. I know it's hard to do, especially when you're inward rotating this hip. This hip wants to lift. Try to get both down. Then you turn your torso towards the front of the mat. Flex both feet. Good, and then you're really trying to press that front shin, not using a hand or any assistance, just mentally engaging the outer right hip and pressing that front shin down into the ground. Good, and then from here, of course, we've got 2 minutes again in this hold. You can either stay upright, work on getting hips down, turning this hip in, opening up this hip to the side, or again, you can take your torso nice and long, chest forward, and fold a little bit over that front shin, similar to what you might do in maybe pigeon pose. All right, and here we go. We've got about 1.5 minutes here. Good. And I keep looking at my phone because I have a timer on there, so I can really make sure we're holding these evenly on both sides. No matter where you are, keep pressing that front shin into the mat. Keep trying to level out those hips, the pelvis, even though it feels awkward and imbalanced. So this 90-90 stretch and pigeon stretch are two great stretches to help you get into that low squat position. So if you like to lift weights, and actually low squat, we do a lot in our day-to-day life, but if you have trouble getting down low because of your hip mobility, this is a great one. Another great external rotation for people who have been sitting in chairs for a long time. Last breath, take it in, press that front shin down. Good, and then coming back to center. Awesome, you can lift your legs After that one, I like to take my legs straight and just bounce out the knees a little bit and let the blood rush back in. Good. So the next one that we are going to be doing is going to be a single leg runner stretch. You're going to stretch out your left foot, bring your right foot into a tree leg. This stretch is a big side body opener for our low back and our obliques, which we tend to just compress all day when we're working. So all we're going to do is we're going to softly take our left hand to the inside of our left knee, and right arm will come up and behind the head. You're going to keep the head and chest lifted, good posture. And all you're really going to do is arc over to the left. So it's just a nice side bend. And this is not one we're going to hold for long, just a minute, okay, to just really stretch out our lower back, our quadratus lumborum, that huge muscle in the bottom of the low back gets compressed when we sit in chairs. And really all we need is a good 40 seconds to 1 minute to find that release. And some of you yoga people may know this as gate pose when you're taking this huge side stretch. It's called gate. Breathing here, 20 more seconds to just open up into the side of the body. Awesome. Lift on out, stay right where you are. Take your right hand behind you like a kickstand. Left hand comes to the outside of your knee. Perfect place to just twist, to wring it out. Find your posture. Sit up nice and tall. Just twist towards that knee. Good. And release. So we'll do the same stretch on the other side. Extending right leg. Left leg comes in. Good. You really want to find that tree leg. Flex that foot. Turn the right palm up. Good. And start to find that curve. Keep your chest lifted. And again, it's much harder here to take your hand behind your head as you lean over. Press the back of your head into your forearm and just get that big arcing motion. If that hurts, you can also just take traditional gate pose and reaching the arm up and over. Okay. We have about 40 seconds here. So what I find is, I just find it's easier and more relaxing to bend my elbow. I don't know why, but you can take either arm variation. Think about lifting up and out of that lower back. We want to create a lot of space there. Last few rounds of breath. Keep them nice and slow. Good, and then come on out, just our equalizer pose. Take your left hand behind you, right hand to the outside of your thigh. Rotate through your torso, should feel great, especially if you're sitting nice and tall. You might even get a little vertebrae snap, crackle, pop. Keep your gaze behind you. Awesome, and then back to center. Good, so we're gonna get back into the hips. We're gonna do lizard stretch and pigeon, continuing with our theme of those tight hips. So these are good ones to have blocks or pillow. I'm gonna demo with the blocks, but you can do them without any props at all, of course. We're going to hold 1.5 minutes in lizard and 1.5 minutes in pigeon. So let's just start right leg forward, left leg back. You really want to come to a nice low lunge, okay? People have a tendency to want to arch their lower back and stick their butt out. Try to tuck that butt under, lift your chest, okay? And then from here for lizard, all you're going to do is take your hands to the inside of your right front foot, okay? Sometimes in yoga we place the hand outside. We're going to take our hands right to the inside. So that right knee is hugging towards the inside of the body. And of course, I'm pregnant, so I might have to walk it out a little bit. Good, and then another thing you want to look at is your front shin. So you really want your front shin to be straight up and down. Sometimes people are insanely tight. We'll lean it back like this, and it will have a forward tilt, and we're really getting out of the hip at that point and taking it into the calf. So we want to keep this focus on the hip. So sometimes you got to bring that front foot really far forward, okay? Then from here, if you've got blocks, they're great because you can rest your forearms on the blocks. Good. And we're going to hold this one here for about another minute before we come into our pigeon. I just like to really imagine here that my pelvic bowl weighs a ton, so it's really heavy, which is kind of funny because during pregnancy it really does feel that way. But it also feels delicious to open your hips up in this way after sitting or standing. Back to that slow breath. Some of you may be flexible enough to just take lizard forearms on the floor. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Good. And come on up. So we're going to come into our pigeon. You may have to rock your hips out of that a little bit. For pigeon, you're going to walk your front shin across the mat. Try to square your hips towards the front of the mat. Okay, and like 90-90 a little bit, but with the back leg, it's going to be nice and straight. So sometimes I like to lift up on my toes, make sure that back leg is nice and straight. If you can't take pigeon, you can also look up, thread the needle on your back and take that pose instead. I'm not going to demonstrate it today because we're going to hold here for a minute and a half. So in your pigeon, today I'm going to really suggest staying upright. If your arms feel super short, you can also place your hands on a block or a prop. And we're just going to stay lifted in our chest today instead of doing the traditional pigeon where we forward fold, okay? And the main reason is we want to open up this hip, but also our front hip flexor on the other side, which has been compressed when we sit in a chair. So we want to lift our chest up. Doing this version will kind of give us an extension in the front of that left hip, which we probably really need. Good. So we've got about 35 more seconds here. Awesome, and we did it. You can roll your hip off to the side. Good. We will take it to the other side. Before we go to the other side, let's take a few cat-cows just to kind of bring out our spine and bring it back to neutral. Our right hip is probably feeling super loosey-goosey after that. So just coming on to all fours. All you're just going to do is take an inhale, arch, exhale, round, trying to make sure that your upper back and your pelvis are both involved in this. Good. We'll get a couple more cat-cows in. Awesome. And then same thing, other side. I'm going to demonstrate actually facing the same direction. We start in lizard, and to enter that pose, we come into our low lunge, hips descend. Feels great to open up this hip actually. Don't let that butt stick out, belly hang forward. I know it's hard to tell in a pregnant lady, but you really want to tuck that butt in, hug those hips in, let your hips sink. And then of course, for lizard, we're placing both hands to the inside of our left knee this time. We've got 1.5 minutes here. And some of you might feel loose enough to just come down onto your forearms, which is great. And again, you really want to check to make sure your left shin is straight up and down. It's not tilted back, all right? We want to keep it in the hips and out of the calf muscle. And so this just really feels like a really big hip hinge on that left side. And I'm actually super tight on this side today. I think I'm going to have to come up to straight arms, gaze, keeping my gaze forward. Last 30 seconds here. Good. Reach your heart forward just a little bit. Maybe take your gaze forward. Let your hips really sink. Awesome. And then you can rock back on that back knee a little bit, displace the weight. We're going to take the left shin across. It doesn't have to be parallel to the front edge of the mat. If you want to move your left foot back a little bit, you can. Flex that left foot. Good. And then square the hips towards the front of the mat. Don't let your hips spill off to the side. Really square them forward. Straighten your back leg by tucking your toe and lifting your knee, making sure that back leg is nice and long. Good. And then today our 1.5 minutes will be an upright pigeon. So the reason we're doing that is, yes, we're stretching the left hip, but we're also extending the right hip. It almost feels like a back bend without having to do a hard back bend, which again, if we've been sitting on a computer having that screen time, we've been just folding this hip forward. So we're trying to reverse a little bit of that and open up the front of the hip. And if your arms feel short, you can use a prop, okay? Sometimes I even need a prop on one side, not the other. Do whatever makes you feel nice and even and engaged. 50 seconds. Let's just breathe. Try to keep your back leg nice and long. Awesome. Nothing fancy to transition. You can just kind of sit off to the side. Okay. After pigeon and lizard back to back, let's take cat cows. Just let everything go. Okay. So knees hip width apart. Inhale. That's your arch. Exhale, round. Really trying to pull everything close to the spine. Move with your own breath. Few cycles here. Accentuate that movement of the spine like a wave. Good. Back to center. Let's take the knees as wide as our mat. Just set back to a brief child's pose. Should feel nice. Hips down towards your heels. Arms forward. Stretch those arms long. Forehead to the mat. Awesome. And releasing. Good. So last stretch we're going to do today is frog pose. Frog pose is pretty hard. but it's a great reliever of lower back pain. Okay, a lot of the lower back pain comes from tight hips. Of course, that's kind of the theme of today's class. So to warm up for frog, we're going to come into a gate pose variation with our left leg straight out to the side, right knee bent, okay, right toes tucked behind us. And all we're going to do is we're going to bring our hands down, just like we're on all fours, and we're going to send our hips back like a child's pose, and then rock forward a little bit. So back and forward. So I have my back right toes tucked right now. Back and forward. And so you want to keep this left leg super straight. Okay, so every time you send it back, you might feel a little stretch on the inner thigh, which is awesome. Forward. Let's do one more. This is called rocking gate pose. Back and forward. Awesome. We can switch sides. So first you want to find that positioning, left knee down, right leg completely straight out to the side. So the right leg being straight is really key to feeling this along the inner thigh. And just like cat-cows, tuck your back left toe, bring your hands forward underneath your arms, okay? So it looks like you're in a cat-cow with this leg extended, and then you're gonna rock back, like you're rocking back to child's, and then forward, back to your all fours. Back and forward with my left toes tucked. I have to say, I feel this in my left arch of my foot. Again, we're trying to open up laterally. Good. Inhale forward. One more time. Exhale back. Good. And then coming back to center. Awesome. So sit on your heels for just one moment. Gather yourself. If you have props, they might be very, very helpful to frog pose. And I'm actually going to turn my mat a little bit diagonal here so you can get a good view of what's going on in this pose. Okay. So this one is kind of a weird one. It's good to do on carpet because it can be hard on your knees. If it's too hard on your knees, you can use blankets or fold the ends of your mat. All you're going to do is line your knees together and then walk them apart from one another. So it's almost like you're coming into a wide-legged split. Turn your inner ankles down, toes out, just like a frog, okay? Hands stay down underneath your shoulders. And the goal here is to really walk your knees out as wide as they go. So super flexible people, your pelvis may be really close to the floor here, like you're entering a wide-legged split. If you're tight, you don't have much external rotation, like me, you're going to be upright, okay? Now, in frog, we want to rest here, and really a good place to rest, if you're flexible enough, is on your forearms. If you can't bring your forearms down to the floor, of course, you have blocks, okay? Good. Sometimes when people come into frog, their hips are too far forward or too far back. So you may need to rock the hips forward and back just a little bit to figure out where is the sweet spot. And when you find the sweet spot, you will know it, okay? We've got 2 minutes here. So this is one where you don't have to strain your neck or even gaze a certain area. A lot of the work is coming in the hips and inner thighs, so you can just kind of let your head drop, close your eyes. If this is just too intense on your knees, a good modification for this is really just any wide leg forward fold. You could do a wide leg seated forward fold and hold it, or you could do a standing wide leg forward fold and hold it for 2 minutes because you are still getting that inner thigh opening. This is so the opposite of what we do when we sit in a chair. Good, we've got 30 seconds left. Keep your breath nice and slow and prolonged. These static stretches are just so great to do before bed because they calm your nervous system. It's not really a great idea to do a yin practice or prolonged holds before your workout, but it's really great at the end of the workout because it helps aid in muscle recovery. So this is not something I would do to warm people up for lifting weights, but it could be something I would incorporate at the end of a workout. Good, and then to come out of this, really you just kind of shift the hips forward to give yourself some relief, and then you can wiggle those knees back in. Sometimes it takes a little bit to come out of that. Good, sit back on your heels, let your thighs come close together. Very last thing we're gonna do to bring it back to neutral is you're just gonna bring your hands behind you, both knees 90 degrees, feet flexed, chest up, windshield wipers side to side, just a little bit to loosen it out. And actually, let's bring both knees up. Take your left knee down towards the ground. Big internal rotation. This is the exact opposite of what we did in frog. If you've got a tight IT band or tight TFL muscle, you're gonna feel it here on that inward rotation. Good. Left knee up, right knee. Keep that right foot flexed. Just keep your chest up. Let that right knee really internally rotate. Maybe feeling it in the IT band area. And then back to center. Let's just sit up nice and tall, knees wide, legs cross-legged, hands on your thighs. 3 or 4 breaths, close your eyes. Noticing your good posture, noticing how, especially the area around your pelvis and your hips feels. Probably feels a lot more open. A lot more circulation. Awesome, bring your hands to heart center. That was a yin yoga flow for desk-bound people, especially those of you with tight hips. Thank you so much for joining me, and I encourage you, once the rec center is open, to check out my gentle yoga classes at the University of Iowa. We have them at least once a week, and we do a lot of these yin yoga postures during those classes. Namaste.